Welcome to lesson 2, everybody, where we're going to cover the crash of Continental Express Flight 2574 and the aviation maintenance technician's role in that crash. And please forgive me, I'm starting to get a bit of a cold, so hopefully we'll get through this fine. So we said the primary focus was going to be the AMT's role in the accident. The primary human factor that we're going to cover will be communication. And the FAA describes the lack of communication as the failure to transmit, receive, or provide enough information to complete a task. All things that happened in this incident, right? So you see how communication is important here, because if they had communicated properly between shifts and with the AMTs, the supervisors, and the inspectors on their respective shifts, the accident could have been completely avoided. And as I said, the major incident here is the crash of Continental Express Flight 2574. And we're going to analyze how the maintenance and communication failures try and hit the timeline and the human factors that created the multiple minor incidents that combined to cause the major one. Okay, so what happened? On September 11th, 1991, Continental Express Flight 2574 broke up during its descent into George Bush Intercontinental Airport, killing all 14 people on board. The aircraft lost the leading edge of its left horizontal stabilizer, causing it to lose stability, the nose to pitch downward and head towards the ground. Ultimately, it would lose its left engine, the entire horizontal stabilizer, and catch fire before crashing. During their investigation, the NTSB found that the crash was caused by poor maintenance practices and several human factors related issues. The main human factors issues noted by the NTSB were lack of communication and lack of awareness, institutional norms, and complacency. They did not note fatigue and pressure, but I would say that they were contributing factors as well. So the previous night and morning of the flight, over 2 shifts, the maintenance was conducted on the horizontal stabilizer de-ice boots. 2 second shift AMTs and an inspector began work on the boots inside the hangar. So the inspector removed all the screws from the top of the boots, and the AMTs removed it from the right-hand side. No work cards were issued, so they didn't document any maintenance. Since they didn't document anything, second shift really didn't know what had been done. So third shift, when they came on, really had no idea what had happened either. So they didn't really receive a good written pass down, and it was a poor verbal turnover. But everyone agreed that the left side hadn't been touched. So due to time constraints, the third shift decided we'll leave the left-hand side for another night. So at some point during the night, the aircraft was pushed outside the hangar. It was finished by 2 third shift AMTs and an inspector who really couldn't see because they didn't have any good lighting, which caused them to leave the 47 screws out of the left horizontal stabilizer that would ultimately lead to the crash. Okay, human factors issue. Like I said, fatigue and pressure, they didn't cover them, but considering second shift ends around 22:30 and third is 2200, you figure they're probably tired. They had a 07 takeoff time, so for sure there was pressure to get it done. All right, so there's many instances of complacency here. And the NTSB reported that it was systemic, right? No maintenance documented. They didn't follow their pass down procedures. RII items not identified, which caused a lack of awareness among the crews, which led to things being missed, and ultimately the accident. If someone would have just stopped and said, "Where are my work cards?" all this could have been avoided. Okay, poor communication. As I said before, right? No entry on the maintenance cards by second shift. So neither third shift supervisors or the AMTs knew that anything had been done to the left-hand side. The inspector from third shift reviewed the written pass down, but it was before the second shift had completed it. Also, no indication from the NTSB interviews that anyone was taking notes during the verbal pass down. Some of them were from secondhand sources, and the only third shift AMT who received a pass down didn't even work on the aircraft. Some people from second shift said, yes, we worked on it. Some said no. There was really no consensus of what happened. So no one on second shift had a clue what had done. So therefore, no one on third did. So they all just assumed nothing had been done. And this poor communication is what led to them actually killing 14 people. So doing the little things right. Jesus says that honesty and integrity and diligence in the little things show that you're trustworthy and have what it takes to be responsible for larger things. In Luke 16:10, it says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with very much. So what that means is if they've done the little things right, like filling out the work cards, writing their pass downs, ensuring everyone received a verbal pass down, bagging and tagging the parts and not leaving them on a work stand, putting stuff where they belong, it could have been avoided. Also, using things like the 18-inch rule, right? Going 18 inches around everything where you work, and it's if you get the little things right, the big things take care of themselves. And this is a perfect example of that. Okay, so discussion prompts. How would the FAA recommended four components of a shift turnover as defined by Maddox and Humanetric Inc. affect the decision-making process of the AMTs? How might applying the biblical principle of stewardship have influenced the decision-making of the AMTs involved in this scenario? How could the second shift AMTs have addressed the fact that they were not issued work cards by their supervisor without appearing to be insubordinate? What should or could the third shift AMTs have done after the shift change was complete when they realized that work had been done, but the work cards had not been filled out? And trust but verify is a common phrase in aviation. How, why, when, where, and in what situation should AMTs decide to verify so as not to be overbearing of their fellow AMTs and make it seem like you don't trust them or are micromanaging them? Conclusion: the Continental Express Flight 2574 incident is a sobering reminder of how the multiplication of seemingly minor issues can snowball into major that cost 14 people their lives. So you wouldn't think that something like 14 screws or 47 screws would cause a plane to fall out of the sky, but it did. And it shows like if you prioritize human factors and how if they had, everything that led to this incident could have been avoided and eliminated. Remember the biblical principle in Luke 16:10 of doing the little things right. It's foundational for AMTs. So all human factors are critical, but if you look at the Dirty Dozen poster, there are 4 other human factors that can be improved through communication. So that shows you how crucial and effective communication is. So, and no one is better than the maintenance manual. So there's no reason to be complacent. And lack of awareness. If you don't know what's going on or you feel something is unsafe, put your hand up and say something. You don't have to be a supervisor or a leader, to say something. Safety is everyone's responsibility. It's your responsibility to be fit for duty and notice when those around you are not. As an AMT, you're responsible for the airworthiness of the aircraft. So you shouldn't let pressure or timeline of a flight schedule or anything else influence your maintenance decision. Pay attention to and look for human factors issues in yourself, your fellow AMTs, and your organization. By doing so, you will help prevent incidents like this in the future. And then we got a couple videos that we don't have time for, but they'll be on the Lesson 2 homepage. This is a breakup that the FAA did animation. It shows how when the fairing came off, how it crashed. And this is
the EMB-120 is a twin-engine aircraft that features horizontal stabilizer.
And this one is from a TV show. You'll have to open it up in YouTube to watch it, but it's pretty good as well. It has a bunch of interviews with the actual NTSB inspectors. As I said, everything will be on the Lesson 2 homepage. Good luck. I hope you enjoyed the class. Thank you for coming.